You're listening to the Freio
Music Podcast.
To the Freio Music
Podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of the Freio Music Podcast. In this episode, I sit down with FoxFeather and chat with Carly Rick-Smith and Laura Stratton. These two ladies are the front, heart, and soul of FoxFeather. They also play with many other musicians and collaborate, but these two are the founders of the band and are the co-writers of all their songs. In this interview, we talk about some of their creative process, but one of the things that I would like to discuss a little bit before we jump in is the notion of giving back and sharing what you've learned. Both Carly and Laura teach music, and to me that is awesome. They are on stage performing their craft, but also recognize that there's an opportunity to give back to the next generation of musicians or other people who are trying to learn their craft. So I am very grateful for their time and generosity and openness in this conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned.
I'm Carly Rick-Smith, and I am in FoxFeather.
My name is Laura Stratton, and I'm also in FoxFeather.
When did you two start the band?
Officially, I think we started it in 2013. Yeah, officially. But we've been playing together for, I don't know.
Over a decade.
Like 15 years now.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
So yeah, we've been writing together for a really long time. And then we sort of compiled a lot of our writing and decided to form like a band. So yeah.
What were you doing before the band? Like, how did you two meet and start collaborating?
Well, we met in high school. We started playing music together, just like covers and things in college. We both went to CU and started playing covers, and then went forward from there. Started writing, and it just sort of kept going. You know, we never really took it seriously for a long time, and then we decided that we wanted to. So
Yeah. We both had, we went to college. Carly studied music. I went to school to be a therapist. So we kind of like had these other paths, and didn't really have the time, or I guess just like the drive at that point to like really do what it takes to start a band. And then there was this moment of like, okay, we did these things in our life, and now this is really what we want to do. And so it was just we always had it in the back of our heads, but it was like we had to get some other phases out, and then we were like, is this the time?
yeah. I think we lacked the focus before.
Yeah, which is kind of good, you know. You have to be focused, and so we weren't ready.
Yeah.
And what got you to that moment where you're like, yes, I'm ready. Like, this is the time I should switch, should drop doing whatever else you're doing.
I feel like it was when we finished this specific song.
Boys peek through washboards in the windows, foul moon's coming in its stride. They put the pieces tight together, no one else can look inside. But we hear her almost nightly as the devil she arrives. Another night at Mama Joe's. And the ladies, they are pretty, the men line up out the door, just to see them and to hear them and to get a little more. And they never seem to walk straight out that door. Another night.
This song is called Mama Joe's, and it's on our first EP, Foul Moon. And we finished that, and we were like, we have all these songs. Like, what are we gonna do with these? We were at like a songwriting retreat that we used to go to every year for like 10 years, and we just said, you know, let's at least just make an EP. If that's all we do, that'll be all we do. But let's at least get these together, record them, and like get them out there. And then we just kept going forward from there. We were like, well, let's at least play a bunch of shows to promote it. And then let's at least, and then, you know, and it just kind of grew from there. And yeah.
It was kind of either like, let's keep doing this or go back to these jobs that we don't like. And we're like, I think I like this one more. And Yeah.
Nice. And
Yeah.
and that Mama Joe's song, is there a place that you know of? Or Mama Joe, is she a person?
Well,
It's inspired just by New Orleans, and
Okay.
I guess I had been there once. I don't really. You came up with. She had just the line like "Another night at Mama Joe's," from what I remember,
Yeah.
and then we just kind of like created this scene, and
yeah. Well, I think I had just taken a class on visual writing, or like a little mini class at this retreat, and so I remember just trying to like create sort of more of a vision. And I think you had just been to New Orleans, and I don't know, it was very like New Orleans, Tom Waitsy inspired at least, yeah. And then we didn't quite finish it then. I think you went away for you were out of town, and I like wrote out the rest of it, and I called you, and you were like, yes. So, but yeah, so it's sort of it's about a whorehouse, and it's about degenerates doing bad things, but in a fun, awesome way.
It's a very remarkable song. It's got like such soul. So, I mean, in a way, it's not surprising that New Orleans had something to do with it.
At Mama Joe's. There are catfish and they're dancing and the music never stops. Crawdads smoking in the parlor draws the gators from their swamps. And the dollar bills are flying as the ace of spades is drawn. Another night at Mama Joe's. I saw her one fine day as she was walking through the square. Her gown of rouge, a bustle in her lips whispered a dare. As mothers shield the eyes of babes, the eyes of men were not. She sealed their fate right then and there. That devil had them caught. Now it's midnight and the laughter has burned into a drone. Empty bodies of those crawdads, all their
Tell me more about like your
beds in
songwriting. How do you start a song? Is there like an emotion that you're writing from? Is it a memory or situation?
Yeah, well, we co-write. So pretty much, yeah, all of the songs that we play have been co-written. And we start in different ways. I do most of the lyric writing. Laura does most of the composition part, or progressions. And we kind of come to each other maybe with an idea. Like I might have a line or a thought or like a hook, or she might have like a really cool chord progression or a fun rhythmic thing, and we sort of bring together our ideas. But I think every song's different as far as like emotion, Yeah. Sometimes it's a story that we're telling. Sometimes it's personal. A lot of times it's both, I'd say. Like mixing a feeling that I'm having with like maybe some other story that I can put it on.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah. And then sometimes it's just like straight truth. So.
And I understand that you both co-write and you're evolving the song together, but is there a typical approach? Does it start with guitar or melody, or does it start with the lyrics and then you work around that?
But both, the first and the last. So it, like I said, like Laura might start with a guitar thing, like idea, or even sometimes a full, progression. And I'll, I write in my free time. I might be like, oh, I have something that will go with this, or I have an idea and now we can develop it together. But we have had things where I wouldn't say, I don't think I've ever come to you with like except for Something Good,
Yeah.
the first song we wrote. I don't think I've ever come to you with like a full lyrically written song and been like, put music to this. But I'll have, bigger ideas. Maybe when we first started, I would have like poems.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm thinking back on our songs. Like most of it is like, one of the newer ones, the two newest songs that we've written, like Filling Me Up. Like Carly was like, I have this, I remember like we were riding bikes in Denver, and she's like, I've been having this idea of like filling me up. And, and I was like, I love that. Like I can just, and sometimes it's just a tiny little seed where, the same thing with if I bring her just like these 2 chords in this order with this rhythm, and she'll be like, I like that, hold on to it. And so just, it's like we plant these little seeds, and then usually it's later down the road when we like scheduled time to write that we'll be like, okay, remember that like filling me up thing? Like what if this kind of like, is this sort of the feel? And then you wrote verses to it. And and then the last one, the Ghost of You, I had that riff thing. And then that was like pretty much a whole song chord progression.
That one was, you had the whole song, and I was like, okay, I'm going to put words to it. And that was a little bit more difficult for me, but it came out really well. So it's a little of both, I think one of the things that helps us write well is that we don't get too attached to a specific idea, like independently of each other, so that when we do come together, we can be like, okay, yeah, that doesn't fit there. Like that doesn't work. Let's just cut it. Like I really liked it, but whatever, we'll cut it. It's fine.
It's about the song.
Yeah.
Yep.
What makes the song better rather than.
So, yeah.
Tell me about a potential turning point in your career.
Good question.
That is a good question.
It's funny because like the first thing that comes to mind isn't really a show, or like it's not necessarily something that was positive in the moment, but like we did kind of go through like, a whole change of like our band lineup, and nothing like horrible, just like, people going their own ways. And we kind of were forced to create our own identity and like really examine that. And it really, led us to feel a lot more independent as FoxFeather, of just sort of like, this is our baby, and we're gonna like hold on, and when things seem shitty in the moment, it really allowed us to feel really strong in our identity and what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had so many different players with us, and I think when we first started, we've been doing this duo thing kind of on and off for years, and at least me, I really wanted like this band. I really wanted like this sound and this group, and I had these really naive notions that at the time that we would all be this friend family who like loved each other, and like everyone was great, and it was all this like very insular like idea that I had in my head, and it didn't work out like that for years. In fact, it blew up it didn't blow up, but a lot of the problems that arose with our last groups, I think, stemmed from that sort of expectation, at least that I put on people. And now, after that, Laura and I were like, okay, it's just us. Like, we got this. Like, we're FoxFeather.
Right.
And we sort of reclaimed our identity, and then all of the other pieces just fell into place. So I think through the years, just those milestones. I mean, there's been so many times when I've thought that the world just doesn't want me to be doing this. And like the universe is telling me to stop, and we just keep pushing through that. And it's always worth it. It's always better.
It is.
So.
And I think we keep holding on to that, because it's like there were moments where it was just like, could this get any worse? And, just like we don't have a drummer for this big show tomorrow, and like, well, okay. And just at one point, I think we just started being like, this is kind of funny. Like it couldn't get worse. And then we just got now to the point where it's like, we can handle a lot more things without freaking out. And I think those things have been pivotal for us more than like, we played this venue and like, that's going to be this turning point for us, or like, we released this song. And I think those are really important things, for our career, and they're a little bit more slow going, but for us to like have our strength and our, and our friendship too. That's really what's been pivotal for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So, in those moments where you're like, God, the universe is like laughing at us, or like just it's so hard. What strategies or approaches do you take to kind of pushing through that resistance to creating?
I think leaning on each other a lot. leaning on our family. Most people who aren't in music don't really maybe get it as much, so it can be a little difficult. But leaning on each other and just, keeping on going, just saying, okay, well, maybe, you can't let it destroy all of your dreams. Like, maybe this thing that I thought was going to be amazing and turned out to be horrible, obviously it wasn't the right thing. So what's the next step? There's got to be another step. So I think always just turning the next page and you just got to, believe in what you're doing and remember how it makes you feel. If you're doing it just so that you can have a bunch of successes, I mean, everybody wants to be successful, but if that's the only reason you're doing it, then I think you're going to have a hard time. But if you can continue to remember that, why you're doing it, and it's really because it's soul fulfilling, it's because it fills you up inside, then you can sort of continue to grin and bear it. Yeah. And you can, cry sometimes. That helps. So,
yeah, find those specific moments, when you're alone to complain about things, to get it off your chest with each other. Yeah. Yeah. But if you focus too much on all that negative, I mean, it's too much of a competitive industry to be able to focus. I mean, to let yourself focus on all that. You have to focus on the good things. And a lot of times, when something like that happens, and then we play like just you and I, and we'll book like a little brewery gig and play an intimate little show, and both leave just feeling like so awesome. Yeah. And it's like, okay, yeah, it's a good way to just sort of step back and be like, we're just people who enjoy playing music. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. So how did you come up with the name FoxFeather?
Our friend Megan came up with the name FoxFeather. Yep. Thanks, Megan.
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah, we are, I'm not going to even say what we were before. But our friend, when we decided to just kind of do this, we were in the process of figuring out how to record our first EP. And we were driving around with our friend, and she was like, what about like Laura really likes foxes and Carly really likes like owls and birds. So what if it was just like a feather and a fox, or a foxy feather, or like and so we were like, well, that's an idea. And then over the course of like a week, we were like, actually, that's kind of a cool name.
Yeah, we haven't come up with anything better.
Yeah, this is actually, I know, FoxFeather. And there's a lot of built-in imagery.
Yep, alliteration.
Good
for band names.
So, although there is like a Norwegian metal band, FoxFeather, 2 words.
Yeah.
So if you search us on like Google Play or Spotify or anything, you might get some of their music.
Don't add the space.
Don't add the space. It's one word, FoxFeather.
I've had students, parents come to me and they're like, so I heard your music. Not what I would have expected. Yeah. And I was like, did you find the Norwegian metal band?
That's funny. Yeah. All right. So tell me a little bit about when you are creating music. When are you most creative? Is it when, times are tough? Is it late night, early morning? Is there any particular times or moments that you feel most creative?
Definitely when times are tough. It's so much easier to write lyrics, at least, when you're sad.
Heavy drink been weighing her down. Grab a bottle and she drown. Behind a smile is an empty frown. So she lay down the liquor. She said no more. The devil, he can dance in whiskey. The devil, he can dance in gin. Oh, the devil, he can dance in the fist of a man, and in the heart of a woman, if she'll let him in. Spent a life tied to a home, never took a chance to roam. Nothing wrong with being alone, so she packed up her bag. She sang no more. soul. Start moving and you grow, grow, grow. Don't look back, just keep on going to the past and say no, 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 no.
It's just like when you're feeling like anger or emotion, it just sort of wells up. Which is something, you know, if you're trying to be a writer, I would highly suggest practicing writing when you feel like everything is going great in your life, because it's a muscle you need to be able to flex. But it's hard. It's hard when everything's good. You know, you're like, oh no, it's great. Like life's awesome. But yeah, so definitely when you're sad, I wake up with, I like dream songs a lot, and I don't ever remember all of them, but I'll get like one line. So a lot of times I'll wake up and like run to my piano and like write something down or record like a quick line, a melodic line. But other than that, I don't know, we write late night a lot.
Yeah. I mean, for me, like for lyrics, if I'm going to try and like write lyrics, yeah, definitely hard times. They have to come out. Mm-hmm. And musically, I feel like it's super random, and it's always like when I have 5 minutes and I'm like about to go to work, I'm like, oh, that's a cool little idea.
Yeah.
Or like I'm in the car, and so yeah, finding some way to like record those little ideas, and because for me, yeah, musically, it's like, who knows, it's super random. And then when we get together, it's usually late night, mm-hmm. and sometimes, just like anything, sometimes it's a lot easier than others, where it'll just be the perfect, we're just both in the same place, same mm-hmm. mood, and it works. But we usually, schedule our writing, and then also when we can, we try and like have a little like go to dinner before, have like a little hang, so we can kind of get in that creative space of like, let's talk about our lives, and you know.
When we're really good friends too, so mm-hmm. sometimes it's helpful if we can get like all the catching up, like sillies out first, you know, like I haven't seen you since yesterday. What's been going on? And then like, you know, and then 30
we can work.
Yeah. 30 minutes later, we're like, okay, focus. So yeah.
That's great. And you said something that I found really interesting. I want to kind of dive into a little more. You said schedule writing time. Mm-hmm. So like literally on your calendar, you've got like dedicated time.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to now. I mean, when we were in college and lived across the hall from each other and didn't have anything to do, you know, for the most part, it was just like, come over and write. And now being, in different phases of our lives, more grown up, and it's really hard to find the time, especially with the band, when there's rehearsals and shows and all the business aspects that, we have to, you know, find a place that there's not a lot of distractions and where we can feel creative. And so, we put it on the calendar and
schedule it out.
Mm-hmm. Is it a repeating event?
Not as of late. Okay. We have done that for a few months here and there, but we've been pretty busy. So we've been doing it more randomly lately.
Okay. Yeah. Is there a particular time of day that works best for your schedules?
Usually evening. Yeah. Evening's nice for me. If I could write in the day, but a lot of times the stress of what I have to do later can really get in my way. So, you know, I like to be at a place in the day where we can just like, this is what we're doing now. Mm-hmm. Like there's nothing I have to do next. Yeah. And so we schedule usually evening time.
Yeah, we'll get like a hotel room
we've done
in like random places.
Nice.
Yeah, Broomfield or Fort Collins, and
just spend like 10 hours writing in a hotel room with some boxed wine, takeout. So, yeah.
So why, I mean, I think it's a very common thing that artists want to kind of separate themselves or create a bubble of creativity. Why do you think it's important for you to block out the noise or like the day-to-day distractions?
Same sort of thing as the morning versus, you know, it's if our dogs are there wanting to go outside, or if our
roommates,
yeah. I mean, there's just these little things that get in the way of like, getting a full thought out, you know, and they're all good things in our life, but, you know, they can cause a little anxiety, at least for me. And so I really like to just kind of be able to go in on myself. And I think we like the hotel room idea. And now, you know, we have a little studio space that's nice because that's our creative space too. But taking away sort of the kind of energetic, emotional things that like my house has or her house has, or, you know, somebody else's personal space has a different feel for you, and it also has a different feel for them. And so kind of getting into that sort of, it's almost like, I don't know, white noise.
Yeah.
Just like there's nothing else right now except for what we're doing.
Right. Well, and
So-
it's like you have to put yourself in like a really vulnerable position too, which like we're, you know, after years we're good at with each other, but it's, you know, it's hard to do that with just like a stranger or something when it comes to like creating, because I mean, your ideas might be weird, and a lot of times they are. And, you know, and so to be like maybe trying something or saying something, and then having someone like walk in, it's like, I'm not ready for you to hear this. So
Yeah.
being in that vulnerable place and feeling safe
Yeah.
is a big part of it.
Bottom of your sea, lovers must be warned. I am on a losing streak. Said I'm on a losing streak. Yes, I'm on a losing streak. And I'm on a losing streak.
So you guys created a studio, or you have a studio now. Before that, what were you doing? Where would you feel comfortable to express yourself and try out new ideas and be vulnerable?
I mean, before that, we would write in each other's homes. Camping is a great place to write. I love writing when we're camping, and again the hotel room thing. So, you know, we just sort of dealt with it before. We also used to rehearse like in her guest room at her house. So. You know, but it's just, we found it's more productive to get into that other space. So now we've got the little studio, and you know, it's decorated with all of Laura's mom's a painter, and so she painted us all of these lady musician portraits, and so they're like lining the walls of our
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
you know, we're amongst our heroes.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that leads well into another question, which was, what musicians inspire you, or who do you look up to, or did look up to as a kid or growing up?
Man, I mean,
Just a handful.
yeah, I could. I mean, like, as far as like well-established musicians, I had Bonnie Raitt, Patsy Cline, Billie Holiday, Joni Mitchell, Annie Lennox.
You were just naming all of them.
I know. Well, I'm like, I can think of all the ladies.
Melissa Etheridge was a big one for me. Yeah, it's like a guitar player, and Ani
Janis
DeFranco. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed that there's a trend with all those musicians. They're all females.
Yeah. Yeah. We listen to male artists too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But there's something about other females that kind of inspire you.
Yeah. Well, you kind of can see yourself in them a little bit more, you know, and see, especially as we continue on this journey, it's like you sort of feel like a kindred spirit. I don't know, you know, like they went through all this bullshit too. So, you know, it feels connected. And it's the same thing with I would say with our community, with the, I mean, there's a ton of awesome musicians in the Boulder, Longmont, Denver community, Fort Collins. But there is a special connection with the female artists here. You know, there's just like a sisterhood.
Yep, definitely.
So, but that's not saying anything bad about the male musicians. They're all awesome too. And most of them are like very supportive and really, really helpful as well. So.
Yeah. All the guys in our band, they don't get offended when we're like, get off stage for a minute. This is the girls only.
Kicked off
They're
stage.
like, absolutely. So yeah, we've got a lot of good guys that are advocates for the women in music scene too.
Nice. And tell me about some of the things that you've learned over the years that might be helpful for a musician starting out today.
Connect with your fellow musicians. Our whole beginning was going to open mics and just meeting people and showing support, you know, listen to them. It's not all about you, you know, and just there's so much to learn from your fellow musicians and make friends and go to their shows and connect. I don't really think there's any other way to do it except for, leaning on each other and supporting that way. It's a big one.
Yeah. Supporting each other only makes everyone more successful.
Yeah.
So, you know, of course there's competition, but it should be kind and supportive and uplifting competition, you know. We want everyone to do really well. It's only going to help our scene here where we live, and you know, it's better for our community. So, yeah. And don't let the sound guy get you down. Or the sound gal. I should say the sound person, because we've had plenty of sound gals too. Don't, you know.
Was there any experience that you're drawing from with that?
Many experiences.
Many. Sound guys give you crap?
Oh.
We have to
Yeah.
be careful about it.
I don't
Well,
wanna
we don't need to name
specifics.
names. Yeah.
But, you know, it's just hard sometimes, especially starting out. Like maybe I'm being sensitive, but I'm not.
There's not like a class you can take on how to do all these things, you know. So when you're learning,
Well, there is a class.
Yeah.
you can
Well,
take,
there are, but you don't. I don't know where it is, but like of how to just not make a fool of yourself when you're doing sound check for the first time, or when you're, you know, on stage, and there's just a lot of things that you learn by doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And then you hopefully never make that mistake again. And usually it's by feeling really embarrassed about it.
Yeah.
And so there's just a lot of figuring those things out. And and I understand too, like sometimes it's annoying, you know, on the other side of it when there's people that are learning, and then you just have to remember, like, we were all there once.
Yeah.
And just try to give the benefit of the doubt on both sides, that it's just hard. And yeah, most of the time there's not someone holding your hand. And so just try and ask questions, you know, have someone, like, you know, I'm lucky that I feel like, I've had some like mentors that I can be like, how do I do this? What I do?
Yeah.
And hopefully they are nice and just help you out a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. The sound person should be, you know, they're your friend. They're doing their job and you're doing yours. And if you can do it together, then you're going to have a really great show. But, you know, they're also doing their job, and sometimes, you know,
Sometimes we're annoying.
Sometimes I'm not very happy at my job, you know, and so I always just try and just like kill them with kindness right back, and just try and be like, you know what, we're gonna have a great relationship, you and I. I'm just gonna continue to be nice to you until you turn till you're nice to me, and then it usually works out that way. So. But yeah.
Gotcha. And besides mentors, were there any resources that you used? I know you studied music in college, but how or what resources were helpful to you over the years, at least evolving how you create music and evolving your sound?
Man, that's a good question too. I mean, I think studying other artists is always helpful, and making notes mentally about, what works and what doesn't in your opinion. I mean, art is it's open to be interpreted, right? So maybe something that someone does I don't like, but it works well for their art. But if I'm like, I don't think I like that, then I take that and learn from it and don't do it. But as far as resources, I mean, Song School was a great resource for years for songwriting. That's Rocky Mountain Folks Fest does, or I guess it's Planet Bluegrass, but they do a Song School course, and it's every year, and it's like you camp and you get to go to all these really cool classes, and we learned a ton from that. Yeah. And then just experience. I mean, I learned from doing things. And like you said, it's like a lot of the times I come out of the first time doing something and I feel really silly and dumb. But then I learn I adapt. And so, we did that, the Durango
Songwriter Expo. Yep.
One year, and learned a ton from that, just about like kind of what we wanted and what we didn't want. So yeah, just experience for me. And just not being afraid, just try it. Yeah. And if it doesn't work out, then learn from that. Try it differently. Exactly. Yeah. Adaptation, you're always melding to, you can keep yourself, but you can meld to a situation. So yeah.
Great. And did you both learn by doing covers initially or imitating some of your mentors? And I'll start there.
Yeah.
Music from like an early age for me, I studied piano, classical piano, like a really young age. And so when I did pick up the guitar around when I was like 14, it was all learning other people's music. And some of those are funny inspirations to look back on, but Avril Lavigne, but also the Beatles and Joni Mitchell, and so before I was writing or anything, it was learning as many songs as I could that I knew, and then like slowly here and there, kind of trying to write my own things, but I wrote a handful of songs by myself before she and I started writing, but really it was once we started playing together that the writing process, became more important.
Yeah. I have journals from when I was a kid where I wrote songs, and like little notes like higher, lower, a little lower. Like that's my melody line, right? Yeah. I'm like, I wonder, but mostly I think imitation, like listening to other people's styles and trying to sing like them or something. I also was a big choir person for a long time. So I think I got a lot of my fundamentals from doing choir work through like childhood into high school, into college, post-college. And then learning. I learned classical, I'm classically trained, so vocally I did a lot of like arias and Italian, French, German, all of those things. So other people's work, but in a different way. But I think in my heart, I've always been more, I don't know, actually. I think I'm 50-50. Okay. You're making me think a lot.
Well, I'll ask another question if you want to tap out for a second.
I'll tap out.
Okay. I wanted to ask though, do you read music or do you write music now?
I read music.
Okay.
We both read music. And I can write it. I don't generally write out my melody lines unless I'm by myself and I have one, and then I can notate it out so I remember it. How
do you keep track of it if you don't write it out?
I just memorize it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just repetition and feeling.
Yeah. There's times like when we're first writing a song, where I might forget how I'm doing a specific thing. And sometimes you'll be like, I think you did it this way.
Yeah,
but
record everything in the beginning.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
record things at the beginning, and then we don't forget cool ideas. I sometimes will just go off on like a word tangent and just sing. So I like to record even when we're at the very initial process, because sometimes I can get a really awesome verse out there that I can't remember a second later. But after it's written, it's just internalization. So I just remember them. Although I did have that weird dream the other day. I had a dream that Laura was on stage. We were at this auditorium full of people. She was playing this thing, and I couldn't remember how the song went. And I kept being like, and she was like mouthing the words, but I couldn't understand them because it was a dream. And all the people in the auditorium got up and left and walked out. And I was just like, so yeah, I guess I could do that.
That hasn't happened yet.
That hasn't happened on stage in real life, thank
We'll
goodness.
practice it a few more times.
Yeah.
Before we get on an auditorium stage.
Yeah. So.
Well, how did you make that jump after, imitation and kind of exploration, finding out how other people do stuff, and then kind of becoming confident in your own creation style, in your own ability to write songs?
Part of that is positive reinforcement from people like our parents, and then our friends, and then more friends. Positive reinforcement helps.
And it's best when it's not your friends too.
It's best when it's not your friends. Yeah. Well,
it's great when it's your friends,
that.
but when it's all, when there's people at your shows where it's like, oh, it's more than my mom and my dad and my best friend.
Yeah. Like these people like it too. Okay.
They don't even know us.
Thank goodness. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think with like our style, we are influenced by so many different genres that we have I think our voice as musicians and our songwriting is really influenced by so many different genres. So we have a really country song, we have a really jazzy song, we have got a rock song, and so I think that's something that's helped us with our voice and imitating other people, but not just from one genre. So, and we continue to do so. And I think, to answer your question before too, just going out to shows and continuing to be inspired by different artists and always expanding what you're influenced by and what you're exposing yourself to musically.
Yeah.
When or where did you record your albums or your tracks? Do you record in your home studio, or do you go somewhere?
We record, you go ahead.
Well, our first EP was recorded with Justin Roth at his home studio in Fort Collins. He was someone that we met at song school. And then after that, our full length was at Intro Vertigo studio with our drummer, Jay Elliott. And so that was like a whirlwind 9-day process. 7 days. 7 days where we recorded 11 songs on that album. Yeah, 11 songs.
And this is your
7 days.
self-titled album?
That's our self-titled.
Yeah. We were just like in this little
basement studio.
Just like getting it done.
It was intense, and it was really I don't know if I would do it again, but it was a really cool way. It was like really capturing this moment, and that's all we did. And I think my birthday fell over that week, and it was like we escaped for a little party and then like immediately went back and just like kept working on this album. And so we did that there. And then our EP after that, the Come and Get Me EP, was different. We did our parts here in Boulder, same studio, Intro Vertigo, with Jay. And then we had our producer, Jagoda, who lives on the East Coast. We had he and some session musicians out there at Fox Run Studio in Boston. So it was like part of it there, part of it here. And so, very way of the future. Just recording, waiting for them to like send the files, like, okay, cool. And then we would do our parts. And so it's a lot of back and forth. And
That's cool.
Yeah. And then our newest single, The Rules, was also at Intro Vertigo with Jay Elliott. And Jay produced that most recent single. Yeah.
And when you did that like intense 7-day recording session, were your songs already pre-written? Like you had already performed them, kind of ironed out how it ought to go?
Yes and no. So yes, they were
Most
already
of them.
written. Most of them were. Some of them were newer. We'd been performing them, but we didn't necessarily. I mean, I would say you and I went in there with pretty concrete plan. The band we were working with at the time kind of went in there and just like threw it together, which was great. I mean, I think it turned out really well, but it was a little like nerve-wracking at times where I'm like, so what are you going to do on this part for this instrument? I'm not going to say specifics. But, and this person would be like, I don't know.
Yeah, what's the chord progression?
Yeah. We're like, what? But I'm like, didn't you play this with us like 18 times? But yeah, no, they were mostly put together. So
We had a couple we had Read in a Book on there, which we
that was newer.
never played live. Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of gave our producer like 20 songs that we just sent him like rough tracks of, and we're like, which ones do you like? And we knew like a handful that were going to be for sure. And there were some that we intended to record that we're like, actually this doesn't feel like it fits. And then some that we never thought would actually go
Make
on
it.
there. And then they did. And the arrangements changed once we started recording. And so it was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun process.
That's awesome. So when you're in the studio, you get the kind of luxury of maybe stretching, taking a moment, or taking another take on a track. But when you're live, and it's one time through, you got a time limit. How? And this one's specifically for Carly. How are you able to like change emotions between the songs? Because certain songs are more somber, some are really lighthearted and energetic, and some are like have such feeling behind them. How are you able to like flip a switch in a moment and deliver those vocals?
I think attaching to the song itself and attaching a story to it. There are older songs where the story in my head behind it has changed like 5 or 6 times, but it's like getting a concrete kind of outline of a story that you can attach that emotion to, and then it's just allowing that to kind of overcome you. I mean, it's like acting, but really, getting into it and feeling it. So when I'm, when I'm doing a kind of sassier song, it's like I let my little sassy side come out, and I might like think of a roll a picture in my head of like things that are happening that help me attach to that. I mean, it helps. It helps when I think it helps when you sing your own material, because I wrote that, so I can think of it how I want to, and like attach that emotion to it. But it's a funny little like perfect moment. It's almost like playing pool, where like if you're too sober, you're bad, and if you have too much beer, you're bad. But if you're like 2 beers in, you might be pretty good at it. It's sort of like that, not with the drinking part, but that middle ground where it's like if it's a brand new song, it might be a little bit harder to do at first, and if it's a really old song, it gets harder again. But there's this middle section, which I think is the best time to be playing the song. That is like I'm familiar with it. It's really in me. I can feel like I can explore a little bit more and really go to different places with it. It's like that perfect pool game.
Yeah. Oh, that's for the band too. That
Yeah.
perfect moment when you're not like, pay attention. Wait, is this where it has? Yeah, is this where it's gonna happen? And then not when you get too comfortable and you're not paying attention. Like, did I just miss the bridge?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So.
And what do you see in your mind's eye when you're singing? Do you see that picture unfolding like you said, or?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the song, like with Mama Joe's, I try and like imagine all of that. There's so much descriptive, there's so much visualization in that song. So I try and like imagine those things happening, and that helps me with the song. With Favorite Me, that one's changed a couple times, but I think about like a personal experience, a personal feeling, but then maybe I put it onto, a different character. So I see this happening between these two people. And I'm like, I'm watching it sort of in my head and feeling it. Yeah. So, and it feels so much better to sing when you have emotion behind it. Yeah. It's like a release. So, yeah.
Great. And Laura, when you're playing and you are switching between chords, clearly you have a huge vocabulary, for lack of a better term, of chords and different progressions that evoke a feeling. And I saw you using a capo at some times. How, when you're creating it, how do you choose to pull out certain feelings from the guitar? Or I don't know if I'm saying that well. Like, if you're wanting to create a particular song, choosing from a huge array of possibilities, how do you kind of narrow down what you're going to work with?
I think like any time that there's a progression that like brings out an emotion, which I think is really cool with music, where it can be, sometimes it's a really simple progression that's been done 5 billion times before, but just like the little subtleties of like, now I feel something with that. Like it's probably more of like a rhythmic thing for me, because you can create a really emotional song with 2 chords, but it's really what you do with them. And so for me, it's just like, if I'm just playing around on guitar, like it's just like, what is it about these 2 chords or these 4 chords that make it powerful? And luckily, when I do feel that and I bring it to Carly, most of the time, like she's picking up on what I'm trying to like evoke. And so I guess just like trying to hear something subtle and something that can be really simple. The capo thing is mostly just to find a key that works best for her voice. And like Red that has double capo, so that's more of like an open tuning. And
without having to open tune
tune your guitar. Yeah.
Okay.
So that for me, that like gives a whole nother avenue for finding tones that are I guess inspiring to write to.
And tell me more about that Red. I didn't know it was a double capo. That's interesting. What's the open tuning?
So basically, it's a partial capo that covers, you can put it, I sometimes use it backwards, but it covers 3 of the strings, so the middle strings. So depending on where you're putting the first one, just a regular capo. So it can, it's basically, if you strum all the strings, it's going to create some kind of chord.
Yeah. What chord is it for Red?
E.
E. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Major. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yep. And so you can do a lot with just like, placing one finger on different strings, and you get a lot of like 6 chords and major 7ths and 9 chords. So that opens up a whole another catalog of writing. Yeah.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
She's fancy.
Well, sometimes, you do. You get like, I get stuck a lot of just like standard tuning, and I try to, get creative with it, and that helps just open up another box.
If there's anything that you're working on, let's talk about it.
Okay, cool. Well, we just released a single, The Rules, which we're really excited about. There's an awesome video with that too, and that will be a part of our 2020 EP. So we'll be doing probably a 6-song, which is a bigger EP, but that's the size of our first EP too. But probably a 6-song. I'm hoping to release it by the end of this year. So, we're excited about that. A bunch of stuff. We kind of going back to your question earlier, but we when we release music, we've generally been playing it live already. And that helps us get it just really tight, and then people get excited too, because they're like, oh, we can finally take that one home with us. So it'll most likely be newer stuff that we've been playing this last year. I know that, I don't want to tell you what songs, but we know quite a few of the songs already that we're going to put on there. So
hopefully a couple that we haven't written yet.
yeah, hopefully. So hopefully that one that was in my dream that I couldn't remember, I'll remember that. But yeah, so that's happening, and then just tours stuff. We like to tour as much as possible. So
we have a new van.
We have a new van.
So she's ready to get on the road.
She is.
Probably out to the Midwest. That's where we like to go.
Yep. Nice. Yep.
And so people can find your upcoming tour dates on your website and Facebook?
Yep, FoxFeatherMusic.com, or Facebook is FoxFeather Music.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Instagram, Spotify.
Twitter.
Kind of.
I know.
It's all good. That's
mostly,
plenty. That's plenty.
Instagram and Facebook we're pretty active on.
And I noticed on your website, on the footer, that you got all those icons, the links to all your social networks.
Yeah.
So that's good home base.
Those are, yep, exactly. And you can see a bunch of cool pictures and videos at the website too.
Yeah.
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 And Laura designed it really nicely.
Thanks, Squarespace.
Thanks, Squarespace.
Sponsored by.
We'll get
I know, right? We should get this sponsored.
Okay, so in one of your songs, it's an older song, but this lyric really stuck out to me, and I wanted to ask the question or try and elaborate on what you mean by it. But it's the song Selfish Behavior, and the lyric is, people don't create art, it's the other way around.
Yeah.
So art creates people.
Yeah, I think so.
Tell me about it.
Man, we wrote that a long time ago.
I know, I was like, which one is it going to be?
I know, I was like, that was a long time ago. I think going back to, I can like remember the room I wrote that in. That's so weird. But I think it's true, people, of course it's almost like we're channeling it, right? So it helps us become more human, more inhuman, more part of the world around us, right? If we can channel that art, and it helps. I think for me, at least, it opens me up. It builds me up. It builds my confidence. It allows me to reconsider how I might think about myself. If I think that something's a fault, and then if I can embrace that through an artistic expression, then I might come out at the other end, thinking that, maybe that's like, that doesn't need to be a weakness. That can be a part of myself. And so I think that art helps you embrace your full self, the bad and the good, or I shouldn't even say bad and good, like the darker, the lighter, the sexy, the funny, the sassy, and sort of harness it into a power. So then, at least for me, that's what art does for me. So
Strange how hard I try to be normal. Running with bare feet, I'm forgetting how to smile. Thinking only of myself as I run for miles. People don't create art, it's the other way around. Strange how much I'm caught at the sound of my own voice. You own the blue seas, and I have my boats spread. Please don't let me sail on through, sink me down, down to the bottom instead. Treasures can be found outside the bottom of your sea.
thanks for
I like
asking.
that one.
Yeah.
Okay, a few just quick questions. We'll see. Maybe just quick responses. But if you dive into it, that's fine. All right, Laura, what's your favorite arcane chord? Rare chord.
Rare chord. Oh, man. That's hard. I don't know.
Like if your guitar was going to get stuck in this tuning and you had to just play
I guess
it.
it'd be like a diminished 7.
Diminished 7. Okay.
Does that work?
Settle.
Is it weird that I have an answer for that?
Sure, go for it.
A minor 7, flat 5.
Oh, okay.
And I only know that because I am currently teaching a student an Ariana Grande song. Yeah. And I was like,
Has that
I love this chord. So that's the only reason.
I also
Okay.
go through phases with chords.
Yeah.
Like I'm in like a major 7
Okay.
phase right now. And yeah, that's a good question.
I know, you're full of the good ones.
All right. Carly, this one's for you. When you're singing, which syllable is more important, the first or the last in a word?
Ooh, it depends on the word. Because it depends on the word. Syllables are, oh man, syllables. I'll geek out on syllables. So yeah, with singing, consonants and vowels are so important to enunciation, right? We want to sort of sing how we speak, but if I say, I don't know, like husband, right? If I sing that, it depends on how it matches the melody, but also like, I would say maybe the first there, husband, but man, that's a good question.
Depends on the word.
It depends on the word.
All right.
Yeah,
Settled.
because, and it depends on what you're trying to get across and how it matches the music.
So can the same word have like a different subtlety or meaning depending on how it's pronounced
Yes.
or enunciated?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think part of that meaning goes back to sort of what you were talking about with your chord progressions and the sort of feelings, the emotion that are tied there. So it's how you fit it into the line. How is it flowing through? Phrasing is so important when you're singing through a verse or a chorus. It's so important to breathe in the right placement and to say your syllables with the right rhythm and to match with the music if you want to get your thought fully across. Yeah. I know that makes me think of, we just started covering, just for fun, a Carly Simon song. And I was like, I couldn't do it because I was like, her phrase, I can't figure out her phrasing. And so I changed it. Sorry, Carly. But it's cool how she does it. And I was like, I can't internalize that. So anyways, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. If you could collaborate with anyone, living or dead, who would it be?
Living's easy.
Yeah. Okay. We can narrow it.
What would yours living be?
I mean, it has to be Brandi Carlile.
Oh, I was going to say Tom Waits.
Well, we can have different answers.
I know, but Brandy's a really good one too. Dead. Billie Holiday. I love her.
That's hard. Yeah.
That's a hard one. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I could collaborate with Tom Waits. I would just be like,
That'd be hard. Yeah.
he's so amazing. So
Favorite or funniest memory from playing music? It could be, middle school.
oh
or,
my god,
Are we thinking of the
Okay.
same one? That
umbrella.
24 years?
Okay. So there's a good one there.
There's only been, I think, 2 shows that I can remember us playing where, luckily they were, kind of more casual ones, but where we had to we had to take a set break because we started laughing so hard and couldn't break it. And so one of them, you want to tell it?
No, you can tell
It's a little
inappropriate. We have this song 24
Yeah, right.
years that we wrote a long time ago. We don't play it very often. It's a pretty sad song and very like mellow and somber and tells this story of a woman going through some hardship. But there is a line.
The scene first is like we were playing this like cozy little coffee shop by a fireplace and really intimate, and there were like a few people just drinking their coffees, like listening, telling this intense story.
Luckily, I don't think most people were actually paying attention, but
Hopefully
maybe they
not.
were. I don't know. Anyways, the line in the thing is, you'll spit in his face as you feel his embrace, because white don't exist in the night. And I said, you'll sit on his face as you feel his embrace. And I just looked at Laura and she looked at me and we were both we just lost it. And like, I'm like crying, trying to get through the rest of this song, just like in this little coffee shop and it's just dead silent. And so, that was a good one.
I don't think anyone listening actually.
No,
it was such a subtle thing. But I just remember looking at her, and it's that moment where if we look at each other, make eye contact, that's when it's over. There's been times when we're like, something's funny is happening. Don't look at Carly. Don't look at her. Don't look at her.
Yep.
But as soon as I see her,
and we both looked at each other, and I was like, did anyone notice that I just said that? Because that's not what the song's about.
It's
and
not.
And then the second time was the same sort of thing, but it was just a guy putting an Alka-Seltzer in his water and doing like this with his hands in the corner of the room, and we both saw it, and I looked at Laura and I saw her seeing it and she looked at me and we just lost it. So those are the two funniest, I think.
Those are the two moments that I can remember us. We had to take set breaks
after.
That's a good coping mechanism.
You
gotta cool down.
Oh man.
Well, last question is for both of you, open-ended. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the listener?
I guess if you're out there and you're an aspiring musician, I think hopefully if you listen to this, then you'd be encouraged to just to try it, or if you are trying it and you're feeling discouraged, to just keep going, because that's something. I think we've talked a lot about this, past hour. It's just there's going to be hardships over and over and over, and it's not the world telling you to give up.
Yeah. Believe in yourself. Keep going.
Find your voice.
Yeah. And and don't be afraid to say no. If you need to. But it's a hard journey, but it's worth it. So
great.
Yeah.
Thank you both for taking the time to share your thoughts and story
you.
and music with me.
Thanks for having us.
It's fun.
And someday we'll be free. Walls slowly crumble between you and me. Got my mind set on changing meaning. I've got skeletons in my brain, dancing around up there. Can you see them? They've been doing it for days. Pounding out each equation with persistence. I'm trying not to lose my head. Letting go is often harder than it should be. Ignoring the monsters hiding under your bed.
You've been listening to the Freio Music Podcast with Michael Morahan. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. And don't forget to share this podcast everywhere. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay tuned.
Freio Music, Freio Music, Freio Music, Freio Music. You are listening to Freio Music.
Stay tuned. Stay tuned. Stay tuned.